Corey hates the job, has hated it, honestly, for about 3 years. Dreads Monday by Saturday afternoon most weekends, which is its own kind of exhausting math to be doing every single week. Corey also can't quit, not won't. Can't the mortgage, the car payment, the 2 vacations a year that have quietly become the thing that makes the rest of it bearable. The salary isn't just a number anymore. It's load-bearing. Pull it out and the whole structure Corey built on top of it comes down with it. This has a name, and it's worth understanding precisely, because the common version of the phrase gets the mechanism slightly wrong in a way that matters. People call this golden handcuffs, and they usually picture the money itself as the trap, as if the salary is simply too good to walk away from. That's not quite what's actually holding Corey in place. The salary isn't the handcuffs. The lifestyle built on top of the salary is, and that distinction changes what the actual escape route looks like. Here's the mechanism in full. Corey's current spending isn't sized to some abstract, comfortable standard of living. It's sized specifically to Corey's current income, the same way water fills exactly the container it's poured into. Every raise over the past several years got absorbed the way raises usually do a better apartment, then a house, then the car that matched the house, then the 2 vacations that started to feel less like a luxury and more like the minimum required to survive the other 50 weeks. None of these were reckless purchases. Each one made sense at the time, the same way lifestyle inflation always does. The result, though, is that Corey's monthly obligations now require almost the entire current salary to sustain, which means the salary and the lifestyle aren't 2 separate things anymore. They're the same object, viewed from 2 different angles. This is what makes golden handcuffs so much harder to escape than ordinary job dissatisfaction. It's not simply that Corey would take a pay cut to leave. Plenty of people do that without much drama. It's that leaving would require unwinding an entire structure of monthly commitments that were each, individually, reasonable decisions, made one at a time, with no single moment where anyone consciously chose to become financially dependent on staying exactly where they are. There's real psychological research that explains why this particular trap costs more than just money. And it comes from a well-established framework called self-determination theory, developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan. Their research, replicated across decades and across dozens of countries, identifies 3 things human well-being consistently depends on. Autonomy, meaning a genuine sense of choice and control over your own actions. Competence, meaning the sense that you're good at what you're doing and growing. And relatedness, a genuine connection to the people around you. Salary, notably, isn't one of the 3. Money can support these things indirectly, but by itself, income has surprisingly little direct relationship to sustained well-being once basic needs are covered. What makes this framework particularly useful here is that it doesn't treat autonomy as a nice-to-have on top of a good job. It treats it as one of 3 genuinely load-bearing pillars, on roughly equal footing with feeling competent and feeling connected to other people. A job can pay extremely well, offer real opportunities to develop skill, and still quietly erode well-being if the person doing it experiences no real sense of choice about being there. That's a very different diagnosis than the work itself is bad, and it points toward a very different kind of fix. Here's what makes Corey's specific situation so corrosive. According to that framework, it's not just a job Corey dislikes. It's a job Corey has no experienced choice about staying in, which directly attacks the autonomy piece of the model in the most literal way possible. Feeling stuck isn't just an unpleasant feeling layered on top of an already difficult job. Research using this framework consistently finds that the sense of being trapped, specifically, predicts burnout and dissatisfaction more strongly than almost any other single workplace factor, including the actual day-to-day content of the work itself. 2 people can do the exact same job, and the one who feels free to leave, even if they never do, reports meaningfully better well-being than the one who feels they cannot. That last point is worth repeating, because it's the part that sounds almost too strange to be true at first. It's not the freedom itself doing the work, in the sense of actually leaving. It's the felt presence of the option, simply knowing, honestly, that you could walk away if you truly needed to changes how the exact same daily tasks are experienced. even when nothing about the job, the boss, or the workload has moved an inch. The trap isn't the job. The trap is the belief, often accurate, that there's no real door out of it. This is the part worth sitting with. Corey isn't necessarily unhappy because of the specific tasks the job requires. Corey is unhappy, in significant part, because the sense of choice has quietly disappeared, replaced by a monthly obligation structure that makes leaving feel less like a decision and more like a hypothetical that doesn't actually apply to real life. So here's the actual way out. And it's not what it initially sounds like. It's not quit the job. It's not toughen up and stay. It's applying the same kind of honest test that shows up everywhere else in this channel, adapted for exactly this trap. If your current lifestyle is what's actually keeping you in a job you no longer choose, the fastest way to restore genuine choice isn't a new job. It's deliberately shrinking the lifestyle enough that the job becomes optional again, not permanently, not dramatically, just enough that staying becomes a real decision instead of a structural requirement. Corey ran the numbers honestly for the first time in 3 years, cutting the second vacation, downsizing the car at the next lease renewal, trimming a handful of recurring subscriptions, none of it dramatic. None of it painful in the way going without necessities would be brought the required monthly number down by about 18%. 18% doesn't sound like freedom. It's the difference between a job that's mandatory and a job that's chosen, which turns out to be almost the entire difference in how it actually feels to walk into the building every Monday. Corey didn't quit. That's worth being honest about too, because this isn't a story about a dramatic exit. Corey is, as of this recording, still there. What changed is that staying became a decision made freely, week to week, instead of a sentence being served, and according to the exact research behind this video, that specific shift, choice restored even without any change in circumstances, is close to the entire different self-determination theory predicts it would be. The handcuffs were never really made of gold. They were made of a lifestyle that quietly grew to require the exact income the job happened to provide, one reasonable purchase at a time, until leaving stopped feeling like an option and started feeling like a hypothetical. Loosening them didn't require becoming a different person. It required becoming honest about which parts of the lifestyle were actually load-bearing, and which parts had just been assumed to be. That distinction, load-bearing versus assumed, turns out to be worth applying to almost everything in a stretched monthly budget, not just Corey's vacation and car lease. Most people have never actually sorted their expenses into those two categories honestly, because doing so requires admitting that some comfortable, ordinary parts of a lifestyle are actually optional, which can feel uncomfortably close to admitting the lifestyle itself was a choice rather than a requirement. It was always a choice. That's not a criticism. It's the exact fact that makes it possible to choose differently. If this made you think differently about a job you're staying in for reasons you haven't actually examined lately, subscribe, because we'll keep telling these stories the psychology first, the money second, the same way we always have. Same honest stories, same simple truth. See you in the next one.